Hello, welcome everyone. In the previous episode of Script Basics, we have learnt about the structure of the screenplay and the format of writing it. Today, in this episode, we will learn about other elements such as time, space, character and dialogues, etc. Time, space and characters are the three basic elements for any script or screenplay. All these three elements have a profound impact on making and budget of the film. It is important for a screenwriter to understand these elements and know how to use them while writing the script. So, let's understand them one by one. Time. The time of the script, like any narrative text, may be measured in the terms of story time and the discourse time. Story time is the sequence of events and the length of the time that passes in the story of the script. But the discourse time, on the other hand, covers the length of the time that is taken up by reading the script and the sequence of the events as they are presented in the discourse. The discourse time of a novel is said to be time it takes to read that novel, but the discourse time of a screenplay is more complex as the screenplay are converted into motion pictures once they were written. So it is necessary to understand it in the screen timing. While it may take no more than 25 seconds to read a page of the screenplay text, convention states that one page of screenplay is approximately counts as 1 minute of the screen. So, discourse time in minutes for a screenplay is roughly equal to the script's number of pages. But some temporal variability on the page is to be expected, where 1 inch of the text may equal to 6 seconds of the screen time, while the next inch may equal to 30 seconds. Story time is primarily tracked in the slug line as either day or night, but some scripts may use subtitles to indicate specific clock times on the screen. Screenplays that cover long durations of time may also include dates in the slug lines, and flashbacks will also be indicated in the scene heading. Time and order. The linear order of the script may be disrupted by the time in any number of ways. Some of them are a flash forward, in which a future story word event is inserted between two events of the narrative present. A flashback, in which a past story word event is inserted between two events of the narrative present. And the jumbled sequencing, where a randomized presentation of story word events lacking a primary narrative present and dictated only by the artistic concerns of the author. Next, time and duration. Screenplay text duration, as has already been pointed out, has a very specific effect on the motion picture duration. The relationship between story time and discourse time, as exhibited in the text and on the screen, may be viewed on 5 distinct categories. The first one is descriptive pause. A descriptive pause in text involves maximum textual space in zero story time. This is common in literary prose, where an author may linger for pages describing some setting, but by virtue of page per minute rule, it is virtually forbidden in screenwriting. The screenwriter may only spend as much time on a description as the camera will spend looking at it. The cinematic equivalent is the freeze frame. Number 2 is slowdown or stretch. A slowdown or stretch in the text involves greater textual space than the story time. This is possible in screenwriting, but it is very rare. The cinematic equivalent is a slow motion shot. The third one is a scene in text. It involves equal textual space and the story time. This is same for motion pictures as for the text, a span of time in which the discourse time equals to the story time. Number 4, summary in text. It involves less textual space than the story time. This manipulation is quite common in screenwriting for practical reasons and can potentially wreak havoc with the page per minute rule. Cinematic equivalents include a series of shots or montage sequence. A time-lapse shot is another cinematic example of summary. The fifth one is ellipsis. Ellipsis in text involves zero textual space and variable story time. In both screenwriting and filmmaking, this involves omitting story time from the discourse by cutting from one scene to another while skipping an intervening event. Next, time and frequency. The question of frequency concerns the number of times an event or series of events is narrated in a given text. In a singularity, an event that happens once in story time is delivered only once in the discourse time. This is the default presentation of frequency in screenwriting. Likewise, in a repetition, however, an event that occurs only once in the story time is delivered multiple times in the discourse time, usually from different perspectives with new information conveyed each time. In an iteration, an event that occurs multiple times in story time is delivered only once in the discourse, with the one example standing in for the pattern. For instance, readers do not need to see a character at her job over and over again to understand that going to work is part of her routine behavior. One scene at her job may be sufficient in establishing that going to work is something she does every day. The single occurrence in discourse time represents an ongoing behavior in the story time. Next, we will see space. Cinema is different from theatre mainly because of its treatment of space. Imagine if you are watching a staged drama in a theatre. You can only watch it with one angle and one perspective. You rarely get to know the details of the stage and the actors. But if you are watching a cinema, you can enjoy almost all the details on the screen in its lifelike. Through close-ups and extreme close-ups, you even get access to the intricate details on the actor's face. So, the cinema frees the audience from the spatial bondage and gives him the power of teleportation. They can shift from locations to location in no time. So, there is no limit to such spatial flexibility in the cinema. Naturally, the space is handled by the scriptwriter who creates a basic content of the scene. In addition to naming each location in the slug line, giving some description of the scene is also necessary for the reader. Due to unique demands of the page per minute rule, however, screenwriters generally do not have the luxury of describing space in vast detail. Indeed, they are only permitted to give the physical details of the scripted space, and the camera will take care of the staged space. Space also marks an additional boundary of the scene. While a continuous stretch of the action in which story time is equal to the discourse time is generally considered a single scene, a change of location midway through the action will divide it into two scenes, each with its own slug line identifying the setting. So this is all about space. Next we move to the character. What is character? How do you define a character? We face variety of situations in our day-to-day life. These situations in our life bring out the best or worst in us. How we act and react or deal with the particular situation reveals our true nature and tells us who we really are. Different people act differently to the same situation. In the same way, screenplay is usually about a key incident or the number of incidents, and the story is the character acting and reacting to it. It is the major source of all the action and all the characters. For example, if you have watched the movie Three Idiots, how Rancho reacts to the ragging of his seniors shows the smartness of his character. These events in a screenplay are specifically designed to bring out the truth about the characters so that the audience can achieve a connection between themselves and the character. Audience always see themselves in the character and relive those moments. For instance, you watch a movie that is set in the college days. Naturally, you associate yourselves with some character in the movie who is also a college student. So, character is the essential foundation of the screenplay. Creating a character. There are several approaches of creating a character, but you must choose which one is better for your story. First of all, create your main character and divide his life into two parts, the interior and the exterior. The interior part constitutes the life of the character from the birth till the beginning of the screenplay. It is a process that forms the character. The exterior part is from the beginning of the film till the conclusion of the screenplay, which reveals the character. You can reveal the exterior life on the screen, but you need a character biography to show the interior part of his life. It has to cover all the part of his or her life, beginning from the birth, childhood, youth, and everything that happens in his life before the beginning of the film. What makes a good character? There are four essential qualities that creates a good character. Number one, the characters have a strong and defined dramatic need. There must be a dramatic need for your character. The need may arise at the beginning of the story or somewhere in the middle of the story. The dramatic need is what drives your character through the storyline. It is their purpose and motivation that driving them through the course of the screenplay. For instance, in the film Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, the need for the key characters is to reunite and overcome their worst fears before they make commitments in life. The story moves ahead as they reach their goals one after the other. On the course of the story, each of their characters are revealed. The second one is they have an individual point of view. Point of view is defined as the way a person sees or views the world. Different characters have different point of views for the same situation. For example, one of your character is addicted to drugs. His parents, who think it's bad, sees it in their own point of view, but his friends, who may encourage him, sees it in their point of view. In crime thrillers, normally a detective or an investigating officer always have a different perception and see things in his point of view, which makes him special from others. The next point is the characters personify an attitude. Attitude in the manner of opinion and a way of acting or feeling that reveals the opinion. But unlike point of view, it is an intellectual decision. It is more like judging the things, good or bad, positive or negative, superior or inferior, optimistic or the pessimistic, etc. Fourth point is they go through some changes or a transformation. At some point, your character may change due to some incident happened in the story, from good to bad or vice versa. Having a character change during the course of the screenplay is not a requirement if it doesn't fit your character. But transformation seems to be an essential aspect of our humanity. Next, we will see writing dialogues. Dialogues are the inseparable part of the script. In a screenplay, dialogues is conversation between two characters unless it is a monologue, where the character speaks to himself. The dialogues in a screenplay do several things, like they give information, they take the story forward, they even describe the character's personality and their intentions. Even though the dialogues are conversations, they are different from our everyday conversation, which is normally boring. Nobody are interested in everyday conversation. So, the screenwriter has to keep the dialogue interesting, engaging and tight. It is not easy to write the dialogues. Here are some of the important tips you should consider while writing the dialogues. Always try to keep your dialogues as short as possible. Use fewer words to say more. Give distinct voices for each character. Each character should have unique style of speaking. If someone is reading the script, they should not look up at the character name. To achieve this, you have to know your characters well. For example, in the movie Sholay, when you read the words "Jo dar gaya, samjho mar gaya," you instantly know it is Gabbar Singh who is speaking. Don't always write formal dialogues. screenplay is not literature. Use informal, vernacular language, slangs used in that region. If your character is well learned, he uses sophisticated words while he talks, but if he is an illiterate, he talks differently. Use humor, sarcasm, and intelligence in your dialogues. It shows the wittiness of your character. Students, here I like to give an example from the Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. When Laila says her name, Imran immediately says, "Doston ne mujhe Majnu bulate hai." That is, my friends always call me Majnu. Here, his words show his cleverness and reveals the funny side of the Imran. Next, don't say everything directly. In the real life, we don't always mean what we say. The character may have something in mind but tells something else. Write character biographies for all your characters. Writing it, along with learning more about the characters, enables us to determine their speech patterns, choice of words, etc. Always keep it in mind that writing great dialogues can neither be learned nor be taught. It is a skill that improves with a lot of practice. Always write and rewrite your dialogues. Read it aloud and listen how it sounds. Get feedback from others, which will be a lot of help. Next, script development. There are a number of stages in the development of the script, and each stage usually requires various drafts. Each stage serves a specific purpose, from a general outline of the story to the script that contains full dimensions of your film, including locations, actions, dialogue, sounds, movements, etc. This process of working and reworking your film story material, adding, cutting, or refining details along the way is called script development. All the stories begin with a basic idea or a concept. It is a very brief outline of the basic elements involved in your story. It describes the whole theme of the story in no more than few sentences. First of all, it answers a few basic questions. What is the genre of your story? Who will be there in the story? That is, the characters of your story. What gets in their way and what do they do to overcome it? Research. After you get the basic idea or concept of your story, a basic research about it is necessary. The research may be related to the characters of your story, locations where you are going to shoot your story. If the film is based on some incidents or some person, research is necessary since you have to portray something that is real. It is important to get the facts right. A lot of research and hard work had been done while making the films like Neeraja, based on the life of Neeraja Barot, or the film Talwar, which is based on the infamous Arashi murder case. Treatment. The treatment is a prose description of the plot written in present tense, as the film will unfold for the audience scene by scene. A treatment is a story draft where the writers can hammer out the basic actions and the plot structures of the story before going into complexities of realizing fully developed scenes with dialogue, precise actions, and setting descriptions. The treatment is the equivalent of the painter's sketch that can be worked and reworked before committing to the actual painting. It is much easier to cut, add, and rearrange scenes in this form than the fully detailed screenplay. Generally, a treatment involves writing one paragraph for each major dramatic event, also called a narrative beat. A narrative beat in a dramatic event in which the action, decisions, or revelations of that moment move the plot forward either by intensifying it or by sending it to a new direction. In other words, a treatment sketches in the essential events. For a short film, a treatment might be 1 to 3 pages long. For a very simple short film, you can simply write one sentence describing each scene or each narrative beat. This shorter version is called a step outline or a beat sheet. Next, we will see first draft. The first draft is the first complete version of the narrative in a proper screenplay format. It is normally known as author's draft. The emphasis of author's draft is on the story, the development of the characters, and the conflict actions, settings, and the dialogue. The author's draft goes through a number of rewrites and revisions on its way to becoming a final draft, which is the last version of the author's draft before being turned into a shooting script. The aim of an author's draft is remain streamlined, flexible, and readable. Therefore, technical informations such as camera angles, performance cues, blocking, or detailed set description is kept to an absolute minimum. So one should not attempt to direct the entire film shot by shot in the author's draft. The detailed visualization and interpretation of the screenplay occurs during later pre-production and production stages. Next we will see shooting script. Once you have completed your rewrites and arrived at a final draft, you will be ready to take that script into the production by transforming it into a shooting script. The shooting script is the version of the screenplay you take into production. That is, the script from which the production team, including director, cinematographer, production designer, etc., will work, and from the version in which the film will be shot. A shooting script communicates in specific terms the director's visual approach to the film. All the scenes are numbered on the shooting script to facilitate breaking down the script and organizing the production of the film. This version also includes specific technical information about the visualization of the movie, like camera angles, shots, camera moves, etc. Next, summary. Time, space, character, and the dialogues play an important role in writing a screenplay. The time in the screenplay is different from the actual time on the screen, but still, one page of the screenplay can be roughly considered as 1 minute on the screen. But it varies due to several factors like descriptive pause, slowdowns, ellipses, and repetitions. A scriptwriter, unlike a playwright, is free from limitation of the space. He can teleport his audience in no time. Character of a person is revealed by his actions and reactions to the situations and incidents in his life. One way of describing a character in a screenplay is to create such incident in the screenplay. Even though dialogues are nothing but speaking, it is different from normal everyday conversations. It has to be simple, interesting, and engaging. The process of working and reworking a film story material, adding, cutting, or refining the details is called script development. It involves several stages such as concept development, research, treatment, first draft, and final draft. Thank you.